topic, ethical leadership in a changing world, reigniting your impact. I yield the mic to you, sir.
Thank you so much. And if all of you can hear me loud and clear, just give me a thumbs up just to make sure you can hear me loud and clear. Okay, great. Awesome. Awesome. Hey, listen, man, it's indeed a pleasure to welcome all of you to our institute. And to that point, I want to say that I am grateful and excited by our team effort, particularly the Ghana campus for putting this important training together. Uh, we as an individuals, we as an institution, even you as an individual, there is always a time you need to reignite your impact. One of the things that I will mention and I will say to all of you is that understand that impact is very important. Your relevance is what makes you sought after in any situation, in every place you live, wherever you find yourself. Always keep at the back of your mind that if you lose your relevance, you become useless to the community. You become useless to your family. You become useless to any part of the world that you lived in. And so it is always very important that as a leader, you must always keep at the back of your mind, what is it that I can do to make me relevant? I hope I'm making a lot of sense, and I pray that all of you today will walk away with something that will challenge you. First of all, uh, in as much as this is going to be more of a lecture than interaction, as a professor, I would like to blend it in the way that you become participatory in this whole discussion. My goal is that it will take approximately an hour, not beyond that, maybe less 45 minutes to finish this whole topic. Which means that I'll run a bit faster, but at the same time, I also want your engagement. So one of the things that I want you to ask yourself as an individual in this class right now, ask yourself, are you the sought after? And this is rhetorical. So ask yourself again, when you are in the place, is your relevance seen? Or ask yourself again, do people wish you are around or you were around when something happened? What kind of impact have you made towards the people that you work with? What kind of impact have you made towards the people that you live with? Those of you who have children, does your children feel that you have made an impact in their lives? Those of you who are married, does your spouses feel that you have made an impact in their lives? Those of you who are bosses at the office, how relevant is your participation in your office? I will suggest that if you are not speaking, please mute your background so that you don't distract us. Let me mute this person here. Okay, great. So the question then is, how relevant are you in your community? This is a chill moment. I want you to think, pause and think, and ask yourself, what is your impact to this world, to your family, to your generation, to your team, to your church, to your mosque? How relevant are you? Are you just adding to the numbers, or are you in a place where if you even call out from work, everything come to a scorching halt? That when you have not spoken in a week, everybody knows that something is wrong. What impact do you make? I'll give you a couple of examples before we dive into the objectives and the real work we're about to do today. How many of you can use the chat room if you are at a position where you can type to suggest what they think of Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, all the social media networks? What impact have they made in your life? You can use the chat room to share some points. Again, like I said, it's more going to be more of a lecturate, but I still want to get some inputs from you. What impact do you think these social media uh, institutions have made in your life? Help me scale my business inanimous or unimaginably. I'm sorry. Yes, that is one. Another option could be, well, also help me build a solid social capital. The impact. Now, social media have helped me to live in the United States of America and be able to connect with friends and people across the globe that maybe I haven't seen for many years, or some I've never even met in person, or some I have only engaged them using those social media platform. Impact. So without those social media handles, that connection wouldn't be there. Impact. I just want you to keep at the back of your mind why impact is important. Again, because we don't want to spend too much time dwelling on the introduction, we are going to move forward, and then we hope that all of you are going to learn a lot, just as I will be learning alongside as well. All right, so our objectives for today is basically going to be uh, centered around the understanding of the core principles when it comes to ethical leadership. My goal again is that at the end of the day, I wanted to, I'm sorry, at the end of the day, I wanted to see how we are able to analyze the relationship between personal values and leadership values. Yes, Christopher, voice for the voiceless in the community. We also want to make sure by the end of this today's training, you should be able to develop strategies for maintaining integrity in challenging situations. Be able to create an action plan for positive organizational impact. And more importantly, we should be in a place and a position to apply ethical decision-making framework in a real world scenarios. So these are the objectives that I want to work with as far as our learning is concerned. And if you can hear me loud and clear, if my presentation is showing up properly on your screens, just give me a thumbs up so that I know you can hear me. Good, thank you. I appreciate that. And I ask this because I'm using multiple screens. I have about 4 different screens here, so I just want to make sure we are getting the right thing at the right time. All right, great. So now my question to all of you is, what is ethical leadership? What is ethical leadership? What is ethical leadership? What is ethical leadership? Now, ethical leadership basically is a kind of leadership that actually demonstrates appropriate conduct. It's very important. I want you to understand that ethical leadership is a leadership that demonstrates appropriate conduct. So in that case, ask yourself, in your home as a husband, in your home as a wife, in your workplace as a CEO, in your workplace as a boss, in your workplace as a subordinate or an employee, in your church as a pastor, in your mosque as an Islamic scholar or a leader, in your community. Ask yourself that simple question. I think somebody's mic is out. If Kwesi, please check that for me so you can mute anybody who comes off mic. Thank you. Now, ask yourself, do you demonstrate appropriate conduct? You don't have to answer this in public for any of us to know. Ask yourself, do you demonstrate appropriate conduct? If so, kudos to you. If not, then you have a very long way to go, because ethical leadership is the demonstration of appropriate conduct. Ethical leadership is also based on decision making based on moral principles. And you know by now that ethical principles are not law. They are a pieces of guidance and policies that helps us to hold ourselves accountable. And so to that point, if you are making decisions, your decision should be based on some level of moral principle. What does that mean, to make decisions based on moral principles? Anybody want to share that? You can come on mic to speak directly if you want to speak, or you can also use the chat to respond, or you can come on camera. We can see your handsome or your beautiful face as you contribute to this discussion. What does it mean when we talked about ethical leadership based on decision making based on moral principles? Any thoughts, any idea? Okay, everybody is quiet. So I think that all of you are in the mood of a lecture today and not necessarily. Yes, KB.
Okay, so I would say that in a world where people are highly self-centered and they really put themselves before others, as a leader, if you make decisions and you make yourself second to that decision and make sure that whoever that decision concerns benefit from the decision you're making, then you are making a decision based on morality. That is what I would say.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that perspective. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts as far as the decision making based on moral principles?
Hello.
Yes, Christopher.
Yeah, I think I will look at ethical leadership in relation to integrity, where honesty, transparency, and trustworthy consistency demonstrate your behavior in the society.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that as well. Great point. Now, so you will realize that ethical leadership is not just moral, it goes beyond that. Ethical leadership promotes value-based behavior. Value-based behavior. So what is your value in life? Do you value honesty? Do you value integrity? Do you value responsibility? If these are things that you value, then in your leadership, ethical leadership incorporates value-based behavior. What more? Ethical leadership goes beyond that by balancing both result and moral responsibilities. So you want to win at all costs, but yes, we encourage you to win, but you got to win ethically. You don't go backbiting people. You don't go tarnishing the images of the people that you work with and your colleagues. You don't go speaking evil and negatively with the people that you hang around with and then expect to win. If you use any of these means to win, you are not leading ethically. That is why ethical principles are very important in the balance of both your results as well as your moral values. Ethical leadership also incorporates what I will refer to as commitment to organizational and societal well-being. So this is where the things like corporate social responsibility comes in. This is where your individual commitment comes in. This is where you are able to actually look at things from different perspectives and factor that into how is this going to build my organization? How is this going to make me a strong leader? At the end of the day, you also pay attention to the society because society is all that we have. For instance, things like climate change, things like choking of the gutters, things like people sleeping on the streets in a very inhumane conditions. All these are part of the things that you pay attention to when you are defining ethical leadership. So one of the things that I want you to pay attention to as we are learning together as a team is that if your understanding of ethical leadership does not include any of the 5 things that I have mentioned on the screen, then you need to consider your understanding of the definition again. Because ethical leadership involves all that I have just mentioned. And I pray and I hope that all of you are making decisions and choices based on these ethical principles that I have shared. All right. So there are 3 pillars of ethical principles, which I want every one of you in this class today to walk away with. This includes moral character. This includes ethical awareness and community or people focus. Let's take them one after the other. Moral character. How does moral character affect your ethical leadership? You are a CEO of a company. You are an employee of a company. You are a husband to a wife. You are a wife to a husband. You are a manager of companies. You have activities that you do. Now, how that your moral character becomes a pillar in your ethical principles? The first thing you need to pay attention to and understand is that the first thing is your personal integrity. What do you believe in? What do you stand for? What is it that you will say, no, this would not happen? What is your personal integrity? So, as a form of engaging and learning, I want you to use the chat room if you are able to mention just one word that represents your personal integrity. We'll move on whilst you are putting it there so we don't waste too much time. But what is it that you consider your personal integrity? Because personal integrity is part of the moral character. Look at it from this angle, that it will be my personal integrity that at work, I will never, ever, ever get involved with any woman or any man that I am working with romantically, because it's against the principles of my integrity. so that I can manage the company well. Personal integrity. That if I don't have money, I would never, ever, ever steal money from the company's coffers in the name of its life and death matter. And that I needed to pay these school fees, otherwise my kids will not be in school, or I needed to pay this medical bill, otherwise my parents or my wife or my husband or my child who is sick may die. And so here is money right in front of me, and I'm looking for money to save life. Come on, I will take it. Think about your personal integrity. And yes, Raphael, truthfulness. Thank you. So that becomes your personal integrity. Self-awareness. And those of you who may have taken a course in emotional intelligence, or in future, if you take one of our courses in emotional intelligence, you will understand that moral character, it's all about self-awareness. Know thyself. Know yourself, know who you are, know where you are, know how to react, understand your awareness, your environment, because there are things, I jokingly will say that if you love butter and they put butter by your side, the temptation that you will sneak and lick a piece of it is very high. It's a high risk for you. If you know you are a womanizer, or I don't know, a woman who loves a man, how do you call them? A manizer, if you love men too, so that there's a balance. And you decided to be in the midst of a place where there are plenty women or plenty men, the possibility that you fall is very high. This one is your self-awareness. And then another portion of the moral character is consistency in values. You can't say today I am this and then tomorrow I am that. Oh, everybody knows that when it comes to, being ethical in this direction, then tomorrow you are not. Today you are, tomorrow you are not. It means that you are not consistent in your values. And how many of you know that value-based is the most, like for instance, value-based conflict is the most difficult conflict to resolve, because they are not based on method, facts, or goals. They are things that you believe in. So a good example, I don't know if it's a appropriate example, but I'll still share that here for the sake of learning purpose, nothing else other than learning. You are a very devout Christian and you've been told that payment of tithe will give you liberation. And so you believe in it, you pay tithe consistently. Your children don't believe in that principle. They keep telling you that, hey, we are wasting money. Pastors are chopping your money. Stop it. Now, because it is your value-based belief, it will be difficult for them to change your mind, because values are things that we hold dear to. Anyway, we want to move on so that we don't keep you waiting. The second pillar is ethical awareness. Be aware of the ethical issues that surround you as an individual. Remember, I had mentioned earlier on that ethical principles are not laws, but you will be held accountable based on those principles. Why? Because ethical principles are things that we came together and put in order to give us a guide. At the same time, it is also the societal expectation of living, so that society have said that when you are married, you can have a side chick. If you want to have two wives, ethical principles by our society culturally says that go and ask the hand of that person in marriage. So you have two wives. You are known to have two wives, three wives, four wives, or you are a woman, you have 2 husbands, 3 husbands, 4 husbands. It means that you are recognizing your environment. But society frowns on you having this and doing this behind the scenes, because it's just a matter of time when it comes to light. Otherwise, be aware of things that can ethically bring you down. Again, moral reasoning. Moral reasoning. See, there are some things that you don't have to struggle. You will know. Nobody teaches a child right or wrong from the beginning. It comes naturally. When a child opens a fridge and steals a bread from the fridge, the child knows that what he or she did was wrong. We have to be very conversant of our moral reasoning in making judgment and decisions as part of our ethical awareness. And finally, community or people focus. Why is this important? It is important because when we are making ethical decisions, we need to put our stakeholders in place. Who are the people that will be affected by my action? As you are reigniting your impact in society, as you are reigniting your impact among your alumni group, as you are reigniting your impact in your home, who are the people who will be heavily be impacted by my action? If you steal money from work and you get caught and you are sent to the court system and you are sentenced to jail, who are the people who are going to be impacted? You stole the money, but your wife and your children, or your husband and your children, are going to suffer. The same principles apply to everything that we do. Social responsibility. You are walking on the street, you had some paper in your hands, you just throw it on the floor, knowing that when the wind blows it, it gets into an open gutter. It gets into this gutter. Now it accrues, and then June, July, especially those in Ghana, June, July, suddenly it rains heavily. Now the gutters are choked. What is the impact? The impact is that our communities are going to be flooded. And when there is flooding in our community, the problem you are going to have is that it will affect all of you and all of us. So those ethical principles are very important, and they are things that we need to pay attention to. Great. Any question so far? Any contribution as I move forward? All right. So if everything is clear and it's coming out the way you expected, please use your favorite emoji to recognize that, or for me to recognize that I am delivering the message the way it ought to. Let me see. I see the love, the heart sign. Any other? Great. I see Eunice give me, I don't know what that is, but Eunice, but I know it's more like a target. So great. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's move on. Now, when you are a leader, in order for you to be relevant in your community, in order for you to be relevant in wherever you find yourself, there are things that will challenge you. And so in your leadership landscape, here are a couple of things that I believe will make some relevant sense for you to understand. Globalization and cultural diversity. Listen, globalization, it's something that has come to prove that you cannot live in isolation. A clear-cut example of this was during the COVID. we came to the realization that what happened in America affected the people in Japan, the people in Swaziland, the people in Ghana, the people in Nigeria. It doesn't matter where you live. Globalization affects all of us. When the cedi or when the dollar depreciates or appreciates, it affects all the countries that trade with the dollar in mind. So globalization has come to show us that it affects all of us. So in your leadership landscape, you need to factor globalization, the impact of your action globalize in the global world. Cultural diversity, like it or not, the world have come to embrace cultural diversity. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. Understand that there's a cultural diversity, a huge cultural diversity around the globe. You travel to where I live in the United States of America or Europe or Northern America or some part of Europe, gays and lesbianism, it's normal lifestyle for people now. If you hop into Africa or into the Middle East, it's a no-go area. We need to understand the cultural diversity of people. What is culture? Culture is a way of life for people. So we need to understand that the fact that you believe in this principle does not necessarily mean that it affects the other person. So be very conversant in the environment where you are. And then also understand that now we now live in the digital transformative period, which means that whenever we are making choices and decisions, think about the impact digitally. I tell people all the time, and supervisors, leaders, managers, CEOs, in my workshops and seminars, I remind them that there's something called digital footprint. It doesn't matter how young and stupid you are. Forgive me for a wrong choice of word. But I'll repeat that again. It doesn't matter how young and stupid and foolish you are. If you decide to post yourself naked on social media, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on Instagram, and you delete them, don't ever think it has been deleted. You don't own the server. You don't own the space. Your digital print will remain there forever. And anybody with a good IT skills can always go back and retrieve that post that you share. So be very careful as you take advantage in your leadership quest, especially when your ethical principles are concerned. Now, another area you also need to pay attention is the environmental consciousness. Be very careful. I tell leaders all the time, this is the world you have. Protect it. I won't say more about that. Protect it. Otherwise, a time is coming, you will have no place to live. Believe it or not, once upon a time, the sea was thousands of miles from the shore. Today, the sea is closer to land than before because of our behaviors. In the past, we can predict that it's going to be Harmattan January, February, and it's going to rain July, August. At this point in our life dispensation, we can't predict because July comes and goes, and it rather rains in December. Old Testament rains in December. Who expects to rain in December in West Africa, particularly in Ghana? Nobody. But climate change is because of our environment. So same apply to social justice movement like the Me Too movement and all those stuff, stakeholders, capitalism, as well as remote work dynamics. Again, you understand that some things have come to stay. And so when you are designing your platforms, you need to consider some of these things into those platforms in decision making. Earlier on, I talked about core values in our ethical leadership. Now, in order for you to appreciate this principle very well, How much of an effort do you put in holding your integrity higher? Your integrity becomes the driving force of your impact. Remember, the theme for this training, reigniting your impact. Now, when you lose, now listen, share with me either in the chat or raise your hand or thumbs up if you agree with me that how do you feel when somebody you trust so much, somebody you respect, somebody you appreciate, it turns out that the person's lack integrity? How do you feel? That all these years I have learned to appreciate this guy or this man. I've loved him. I look up to him. But it turned out that he wasn't what he claims to be. Integrity is the core value for you in order to make an impact. You cannot make a meaningful impact if you don't have integrity. Transparency. How transparent are you? How transparent are you? See, listen, it is important for all of you to appreciate and understand that transparency is different from privacy. It doesn't mean that you put all my private matters in public. But when you are working with people, be transparent. When you love somebody, be transparent. When you care about your environment, be transparent. Transparency leads to accountability. How do you hold yourself accountable? Are you quick to look for somebody to blame? What kind of impact do you make in the world when all of a sudden, when there is a time for accountability, you begin to blame others other than yourself? I have mentioned many times that accountability is not micromanagement. Hold yourself accountable and hold the people you lead accountable as well. Why? Because it is through accountability that you will be in a place and a position to be able to be fair. Respect. If you don't respect yourself, don't expect others to respect you. And how do you respect yourself? By doing the things that will earn you respect. Because you took in one bottle of beer, you start misbehaving. What impact are you reigniting to your people or to the people you lead? Last Saturday, I was teaching a class on strategic leadership, and I mentioned to the students that trust is a strong pillar of ethical character. That we can only trust you based on a repeated behavior. So, and we gave those of you who were part of that class, we jokingly said that, well, those of you who love soccer, we said that if you put your trust in Olidade, those from Ghana, you know you are going to have a shock of your life, because when you want them to win, that's when they will disappoint you. And then we talk about Manchester United and what is going on with them, all as part of trust. You trust people, but when the people keep on disappointing you, you no longer trust them again. And that is what leads to that process of mistrust. And of course, we talk about social responsibility, because you as an individual, you also have a role. How do we build and maintain our integrity as leaders? Remember, the key word, and we'll be wrapping up very soon, the key word in our learning today is reigniting our impact. And we have mentioned that the core principle of our impact is personal integrity. How do we build and maintain our integrity? Alignment of words and action. Guys, if you didn't learn anything at all in this class, alignment of words and action. I say this all the time. If you fail to do the things you promise to do, what you are telling us that you do not trust yourself. Therefore, we should not trust you, period. So all of you in this class today, alignment of your words and your actions are important. My greatest shock, and those of you who knows, I don't hide it. My greatest shock in working with students from across the world, especially those from Africa, I came to realize that their words means nothing. There is a project we have to work on. There is a meeting we have to come. There is something we need to do. And people come to say, well noted, or I'll do the needful. And they do nothing. Remember, we said what? Trust is earned by repeated behaviors and action. So if you tell me that, well noted, and you didn't show up, if you said, I'll do the needful, and you didn't do the needful, tell me, does your words align with your actions? Please put it in the chat, yes or no. Does your words align with your action? Very, very, very important. That's why I am saying that even if you didn't learn anything in this class alone, one thing I want you to walk away with is that in order to maintain your integrity as a leader, your words must align with your actions, which means that if something came up and you cannot attend a meeting, or you schedule an appointment with somebody and something came up, be proactive and let the person know that, oh, we plan to meet at 3. Unfortunately, the one who's supposed to pick my children was unable to do so. So I have to readjust to go pick my children. So I'm so sorry, but can we reschedule? You are proactively reacting. But you don't come to say, well noted, I'll meet you at 3 o'clock, and you don't show up. And you expect me or expect yourself to be clapped for. It means there's something fundamentally wrong with your judgment. So please, each and every one of you in this class, I am begging of you, if you didn't take anything in this class at all, make sure that your words and actions are in alignment. And this is the way I put it all the time. You can judge yourself based on your intentions, but people will judge you based on your actions. Take a pause and ask yourself, how do you feel when people disrespect your time? How do you feel when people disappoint you? How do you feel when people are inconsistent with what they tell you? However, and the way you feel, keep in mind, that is the same way others feel about you when you do the same thing to them. If you want to reignite your impact in your society and in your community, then let your words and action be in alignment. Again, I will mention that be consistent with your ethical behavior. As I said, if your ethical behavior is not consistent, people will not take you serious. People will not take you serious. Be transparent in your decision making. When you make a decision, give a reason behind the decision. And in order to maintain a strong integrity, listen, we are human beings. We only know what we are informed of. So be ready to admit when you make mistakes. The only person who doesn't make mistake is God. Every human being on earth make mistakes because we are limited with what we know. Therefore, be quick to admit when you make mistakes. In order to maintain your integrity, lead by example. Those of you in Jagils, you can attest and you can appreciate and understand the fact that whenever I am involved in a thing, I don't lead from behind. I step forward in order for me to be able to show that leadership is by example. If we are contributing money, you will see I'll be part of the people that contributed the money. If we said we are going to be in a place at 2 o'clock, you will know that I will be at the place by 2 o'clock. Everything that we do, you must lead by example. You can't tell your employees and your work people to come to work at 8 o'clock and you show up at 9 o'clock and it is normal. It is not normal. You are not leading by example. If you tell your colleague at work, don't come to work in jeans, and you wore jeans to work, you are not leading by example. And it's also important to have a regular self-reflections. It is very important and crucial. In order for you to be effective, you must learn how to manage your own reflections by asking yourself relevant questions, whether or not you are leading or whether or not you are falling behind. Again, let's look at something around the ethical decision-making frameworks. And in order for you to be able to identify this framework very well, first of all, guys, and again, I don't expect you to share this on the platform, but if you came to learn, I will be expecting that you are actually taking notes and writing. I want you at this point identify any ethical issues that you have. Nobody is seeing your paper. You are the only one seeing what is in front of you. Identify any ethical issues you have. It could be you have problem with integrity. It could be you take monies that doesn't belong to you. It could be you tell a lot of lies. It could be you are promiscuous. You know, you love it. You are not faithful to your spouse. It could be so many things. You know the ethical issue you have. I want you to identify that. And I want you to gather the relevant informations that makes you vulnerable to this ethical issue. And when you have done that, ask yourself, are there alternatives to these ethical issues that I am engaging in? So if we take one case, for instance, you are married, but you decided to have a side chick or a side man. Ask yourself, why? Is it that my wife is not satisfying me? Is it that I am unable to engage in that relationship? What is it? Is it that I love variety? What is it? And then consider the alternative. What is the alternatives here? Analyze the consequences. If this blows out, it means that you are either going to lose your marriage, you are going to destroy your house, you are going to go through a nasty divorce situations, you are going to go through a lot of things. Society is going to look at you with a different lens. What is it and what impact or what consequence would that make for you? And then you make a decision. It's my decision. I have looked and I've analyzed the consequences. I still want to have a Akufa, please, you are disturbing the background. Thank you. You can then make a decision to say that, well, listen, I have identified and looked at all the consequences involved, but I still want to have a side chick. I still want to have a side dude. That is your choice. But you look at the alternative and say, listen, man, this 5 minutes of satisfaction can destroy years of relationship that I have built. And in the same way, when you are implementing, you evaluate and you reflect and you learn. That is the way by which you are able to understand those ethical principles. Of course, in making decisions and making impact, we also understand that there are challenges in ethical leadership. There's no two ways about that. There will be conflict in stakeholders' interest. So if we will default to our to go to scenario, well, whoever you are involved in is going to have a conflict with you breaking up. And so you need to understand the short and the long term differences when you are making when you are confronting ethical challenges. What are the short term benefits and what are the long term benefits? Well, the short term benefit and the long term benefit, you need to look at it from a very broad perspective when you are making decisions. As an organization, we have put you in charge as a director, or as an alumni, you are an association executive, or you're an NGO member. Your role is very vital to the group. What is the short and the long-term benefits in the role that you are playing? Let's also look at some cultural differences. Again, because we are talking about the global world, we need to understand the cultural differences when we are dealing with people. What will be this will completely be different from other places. We talked about technological dilemma earlier on, that anything you share and you put on social media will follow you for the rest of your life. So be careful. And all of you know that when it comes to economics, our economic pressure can have a toll on you when you are dealing with ethical issues. Because one of the things you will understand is that if you are not independent, especially financial independent, it can have a lot of ethical challenges for you. Many people end up having sex with people they don't love, they don't care about them, they don't even have any form of relationship with them. But because the person pays their children's school fees or the person helps them to pay their rent, and so that economic pressure leads them to ethical challenges. And they are not proud of it, but the economy doesn't permit them to walk out of it because then they don't know how they are going to take care of themselves. This takes us back to what I talked about earlier on, personal integrity and values. And of course, be very careful of your personal bias. I am always quick to mention to people that I have my personal bias and I don't shy away from sharing that. Anybody who is result oriented already gets my buy-in. The people who work with me or work around me, even my faculties, my the university that I lecture and all that, my students know if you produce result, quality result, you already have my buy-in. That's my personal biases. So I always make sure that I'm very careful that my personal bias do not overshadow the work. Great. So how do we create ethical organizational culture? The best way to create ethical organizational culture is by having clear values and mission. What is your mission as an individual? What is your mission? Is your mission aligned to your values? Oh, I want to be the PRO. I want to be the programs coordinator. What is the value for you stepping up to become the PRO? Is it just because you want your name to be seen? Or is it just because you do not understand what it involves? Or you really want to make an impact? Code of conduct. What is your code of conduct? What are the things that you would not do even if nobody is watching you? As an organization, we need to create our own code of conduct. Once upon a time in the history of Jagils, and I'll tell you this, we had a student whose conduct was not in alignment of what we do. So I kicked that student out from our platforms. Why? Because what the student did was that she reached out to other students and alumni and create an impression of he having let's create an impression of having financial challenges. So they need to borrow they need to borrow him or her some monies, and then that person was going to pay back. Now, all this happened at my blind side. I only got to know this when the person refused to pay, and when they started asking for the money, this person says, "Well, I can pay you with bitcoins." You know what that means? It's unethical behavior which cannot be tolerated among ourselves. So that person was kicked out. Again, as an organization, we need to offer trainings and programs on ethics to the people that we lead. We should not expect that they will default to knowing what is right or wrong. Some people have judgmental challenges, and so we need to provide them with that. And then also recognize ethical behaviors. When people show ethical behavior, let's recognize it and follow the accountability system. I'm telling you, it will be your go-to if you want to be relevant. Hold people accountable. Anybody who works with me knows that I will hold you accountable. No matter how much I appreciate you and I value you, I will hold you accountable, because if I don't hold you accountable, then I'm creating room for people to default to unethical behaviors. Impact assessment. How do we measure whether or not we are making meaningful impact? Feedback. Once in a while, and those who work closer with me can tell you, I come to them and say, "What do you think of the presentation today? Where do you think I could do better? How do you think we can improve?" And I expect people to tell me the truth, not what I want to hear. And so if you want to be a leader, you need to develop the habit of getting and accepting constructive feedback from stakeholders. If you are not ready and you are going to erect your defense system, then I don't think you should consider that at all. And use employee engagement as a metric, as another way of measuring whether or not you are making an impact. The people you lead, the people you are serving, what is their response? So for me, as an example, I look at the Jagils platforms. Ghana has two platforms, one in Accra, one in Kumasi. I look at the European Union campus. I look at the Nigerian campus. I look at the US campus. I look at the overall Jagils as an institution. And then I ask myself, what is the engagement level? So I see maybe a whole month will pass, one campus have not even said a word. There's something fundamentally wrong with leadership there. The leadership quickly gets a message from me, what is going on? Somebody has been elected an official or executive of a campus, and the person has not even sent one greetings to the entire group members, or when a member of them is celebrating their birthday, they have not even come to wish a person happy birthday. What kind of leader are you? What kind of impact are you making? You are not making an impact. You are just checking the box. So we need to make sure we utilize all these tools in order for us to be able to assess and to hold ourselves accountable. Now, how do we lead through crisis? In managing people, we must also understand that there are a lot of crises going to happen when you are leading people. People are difficult to lead. Therefore, maintain transparency. You cannot lead people when you are not transparent, because then they will not trust you. They know you are not giving them the best of yourself. That is why you must continue to hold yourself accountable. Prioritize the welfare of people. And this is the reason why you will all see, and those of you who knows me very well, you will see that I get concerned and worried when our members and our leaders are not engaging. But when they need something, then they reach out to me. Oh, Prof, I need a letter of recommendation. Prof, I need this. Prof, I need you to help me with this assignment. Prof, I need you to help me refer me to this person. Prof, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. But just ordinary happy birthday to a colleague on the platform, they can't do it. Why do I have to prioritize for them? When you are a leader, you hold yourself accountable and you hold the people you are leading accountable as well. And the same stems to clear communication and demonstrating empathy. So I may still end up doing it, but I will let you know the reason I'm doing this. I'm doing this reluctantly because you have not proved to be a worthy fellow. And so if you are not a worthy fellow, why should I go above and beyond in order for me to get you into giving you what you need? So as we wrap up, in developing future ethical leaders, I encourage you, have mentorship. If you are here and you don't have a mentor, I'm telling you, you have a big problem at hand. You cannot be too big to have a mentor. I have a mentor. I talk to my mentor every month. I do one-on-one with my mentor. I spend time to send things to my mentor to review, to query me, to change things, to make me better. If you are not having a mentor, I will encourage you. You can't make a meaningful impact in life without somebody being a mirror over you. A mentor will be the one that will tell you honest truth in the face. I will also ask that develop capacity for your team members. Invest in yourself. Put money into yourself. Enroll in courses, short courses, skill soft programs. Put money into yourself. And I can assure you that you will be in a place and a position where you will be able to, as it were, get resources to improve yourself. Feedback, I've talked about it, and succession plan. If you want to make great impact in your life, always have a succession plan. Because one of the things that I will remind you, every one of you in this class, tomorrow does not belong to you. Tomorrow belongs to God. Which means that irrespective of how healthy you are, God can call you home today, or God can call you home anytime. So if God can call you home anytime, what is your succession plan? Who takes over from you? If you are owner of a business and you have not trained somebody to take over from you in times of crisis, you are not making an impact. You should quickly identify somebody to take over from you as part of the succession plan. Very, very, very crucial. Now, what is the global perspective of ethical leadership? I won't dwell on this because we've talked about it in our previous conversation. So I will skip that, and then I'll go to technology and ethical leadership. And we have 2 more slides and we are done. Technology and ethical leadership. Listen, we live in the world of digitalization. Be very careful when you are using digital or technology. People will have published things. People will have make quotes and statements. People will have shared documents and images. I am asking you ethically, if you ever use a document which is not yours, always try to find the source and acknowledge and credit the source. That will save you the headache of being dragged into court for using a document which is not yours. We are in the world of AI. I am encouraging all of you, be very circumspect when you use AI. The university that I teach as a professor, we have invested heavily into AI, anti-AI plagiarism checker. So even students at Jagils, when, of course, Jagils does not necessarily mark students down because they use AI. But 90% of people who send me documents through even Jagils, when I put it into the AI generator, it shows me all the source, and some of them are about 99% AI generator. How can you make an impact when you are just using somebody's work without tweaking it to become yours? You are not learning, you are copying. I told a class that I decided to test the functionality of AI. So I coded a language to represent me. And amazingly, my dissertation that I wrote when I was doing my PhD years back, AI generated a portion of my dissertation on ethical leadership and public health policy as if it is ordinarily generated work. And I had the original and what AI shared, and they are comma to comma. Be careful. Otherwise, you will not learn anything, and it will make you irresponsible when you find yourself in a place where everything that you are doing is primarily about using AI. Social media presence. I've mentioned this earlier on, guys. Whatever you put on social media stays there with you. Be careful. Be careful. If you have an opinion, there is a place to share opinion, and there is a place to be political. Be careful. You hate the MPP, you hate the NDC, you hate Donald Trump, you hate Joe Biden, you whatever you. Social media platform is not an ideal place for you if you want to be a great leader, because it remains, and you will walk into an interview and somebody will check on your social media presence and they will retrieve something you wrote about somebody, and that will come to bite you. Be very careful. Be very careful. So these are some of the technological and ethical leadership that you need to pay attention to when handling or making an impact in your community. Now, building trust and credibility. I talked about this earlier on. When you became environmental steward, people will trust you. When you offer equity in society, when you become economic viable to your society, when you think about the future generations and innovations for sustainability, people will trust you because listen, we follow people we trust. I'll give you a very simple, generic example of trust. When a child who is 2 or 3 years and does not know their real cognitive understandings is on top of a roof and a father is standing down and the father tells the child, jump. What do you think the child will do? Put it in a chat or if you want to speak. What do you think the child will do? But I wanted to make sure if all of you are listening to me. So that's why I paused to ask the question. What do you think the child will do?
The child will jump.
Thank you very, very much, Ryder. The child will jump. Why? Because the child has developed some level of trust in you. And so, because of that, we expect you to make sure that your words are relevant to that child. Otherwise, if that child misses the opportunity to trust you, the child will not trust you again. Hence, consistency with behavior, making sure that you keep your commitment from your part. So, to that point, as I speak to leaders all the time, if you step up to be involved in a thing, never under any circumstances allow other people's behavior to take you away from what you avail yourself to do. Because whilst nobody is aware of what is going on behind the scene, people are aware that you did not show up when you were supposed to show up. So I want you to make sure that you demonstrate competence all the time. Demonstrate competence all the time. That is how people begin to trust you. That is how people begin to trust you. What is your personal action plan? Value identification. What is it that you value as a person? What is it that you value as a leader? What is it that you value that you will not compromise? What is your goal? You get elected to be a leader. What is your goal? It doesn't happen in vacuum. You need to set up a goal. How do you measure the impact? And what is the timeline for your development? What resources you are bringing on board? And how are you monitoring the progress of your team members? That is why leadership, as I keep saying, it is not for children. Leadership requires more than just titles. And last but not the least, what are your action steps in reigniting your impact? 1, personal commitment. What commitment are you making from this class? To tell yourself and to evaluate yourself where you are and how can you make a difference? What is your approach to continuous learning? Are you going to invest in yourself? Are you going to chance on courses? Are you going to speak to people who will help you grow? Are you stepping up to be a mentor to other people? Are you willing to subject yourself for somebody you trust to mentor you? What steps are you putting in place towards these planning processes? If you are not a member of a network, are you joining a network? Are you going to be an active member of that network? And most importantly, what is your reflective approach? You sit back and recount your day's activities. And have you asked yourself, what impact am I making in my role, both at home at work, within our networks, what impact are you making? To that point, thank you, Vida. Thank you, Kobe. And thank you for all of you for listening to me. I'll hand over back to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Doc. It's been an amazing session. I believe that all of us on the call tonight have learned so much. And for some of us, I believe that these were thought-provoking conversation to hold. And as leaders, this is exactly the kind of exposure you would need so that you'll be able to challenge some of your fundamentals and how you can exploit the changing times and be effective as a leader as well. I believe that you may have had your notes and you were putting down your point. There are a number of things that I highlighted myself, and I as a form of conclusion, I would want to remind all of us on, more importantly, the three pillars that um, Prof talked about. And so the three pillars of ethical leadership, as we had noted, had to do with moral character, ethical awareness, and community and people focus. Uh, we have been challenged so much, and so as part of you building your ethical framework within your organization, within your teams, within your company, or whatsoever, you would have to make sure that you're able to touch these pillars. And collectively, this would establish a very solid foundation for ethical awareness within your organization. I think those were great points that Prof shared with us. And the core values in ethical leadership, as Prof highlighted: integrity, transparency, accountability, respect, fairness, trust, and social responsibility. These are all crucial things that we would have to pay attention to. And practically, as we do in most of our calls, if anybody seeks to create an ethical organizational culture, we have been given the tools that we need today to do that. And first of all, Prof talked about clear values and mission. What is your mission and what is your value as a leader for that particular organization or for that particular team or the department that you are leading? What are some of the code of conduct you would want to put in place? Do you host ethical trainings to really sink it deep in the team and the colleagues that you are building with? And also, do you have open communication channels where people can feel free to come in and give you feedbacks to help ensure a very well functioning structure within the organization? And when people put up ethical behaviors that are commendable, we need to recognize these people and celebrate them so that it can serve as an example to others. And lastly, we need to build accountability systems. In leadership, accountability is key and is king. And so I believe that if we all should go back to our various organizations, departments, companies, our teams, and implement the principles, the conversations that we have had this evening, I believe that we are all going to build an amazing organization for ourselves. And for our guests who just joined us, we would love that you go to our website and go and get the information. So www.jaglobalinstitute.org, you are going to find information about the institute. And as we said before, there are amazing courses that we run, and currently one is a course is already in progression. And so go through it, find the courses that best speaks to your qualities that you would want to add on as a leader, and then we would appreciate that you pick some of these courses and run it by yourself. If you found this interesting, we would make the recording available for us to be able to go back and listen and go and implement. It has been an amazing evening. Thank you so much for spending your 1 hour and almost 30 minutes with us. We really appreciate that. And we look forward to have you in our subsequent calls like this to help all of us to build these qualities. So we meet again. We say may God continue to keep our souls. Bye-bye for now.